chase for the Hersheys Cup Series Season 7 Championship continues here as we get ready to cap off what's been a very exciting race weekend here at Talladega Superspeedway. We had the Last of Us Light Series drivers here 2 days ago. Then yesterday we had the Pizza Deck Series race. And now we're getting ready for the race that's going to set up what it's going to look like for our next elimination race next week at Boston. You can see on the right side of your screen what it looks like after last week's first race of the second round here with our remaining 12 drivers after Auto Club. And it's definitely quite a split, isn't it? We have one driver that we know for certain is going to move on to the Elite Eight after taking the checker flag last week at Auto Club, his first win of the season, K Batson. We'll be heading into today's race at Talladega and next week's race at Boston, knowing that regardless of what happens, he will be one of the 8 representatives moving on to round 3. Question is, who will join him? Well, right now, if you look there at that grid, Cole Baker, Cody Smart, Scott Roush, Joseph Srigley, they are all 4 mired down there in the point standings right now in the 4 elimination spots. So if those 8 that are up above them, like 7 I should say, like Young, Gardner, McCrury, Mathews, Baskinger, and Shearer and Shelton, can leave Talladega with a good day, they might all be able to head into Boston knowing they're going to be the Elite 8 drivers. But then again, remember, it's a win-and-you're-in situation. If Smart, Baker, Roush, or Srigley go to victory lane here today, they automatically jump all those drivers, and they become another representative of the Elite 8 in round number 3. On the pole position for this race, a guy that knows a thing or two about winning Talladega. He won it here last year. J Gardner on the pole position, alongside of Kyle Keith, who is regarded as super speedway ace. They are going to make up the front row. J Gardner already with a chase win this year, winning at Bristol Dirt to make it into the round of 12. We'll see if he can make it into the round of 8
Drivers,
here today, as he will attempt to go 2 in a row. And yes, I am talking over the command to fire the engines because we got a lot of information to give you guys here under the pacing of this 2.66 mile super speedway. So, coming into this race, you can see on the right side of your screen what the playoff grid looks like, but also I was looking back at Talladega's history here in the Hersheys Cup Series. Now, last year was actually the first year Talladega only appeared once on the schedule. Seasons 1 through 5, we went to Talladega twice, once during the first half of the regular season and then once during the playoffs. And there are a couple of names here that are very interesting of former winners of this event. We've already mentioned Gardner from last season, but if you go back to the first 5 seasons when we came here twice in a year, you had Jeremy Jones, Ryan Madden win in season 1. Charles Sandfer is actually a 3-time winner of this event at Talladega. He ended up sweeping the Talladega races back in season 2, and he also won the playoff race in season 4. In season 3, Cole Baker, one of those drivers that might be in a must-win situation, took the checkered flag in the first race. Second race was won by a driver that's also in this field, Benjamin Miles in the 25. Season 4, we mentioned Sandfer won the playoff race, while the race that took place during the first half of the regular season was won by the eventual champion that year, Matt Haas. And then season 5, the Talladega's first race was won by the eventual champion that season, Trent Dunham. James Richardson took the playoff race. So for 2 out of the last 3 seasons, one of the Talladega race winners have eventually gone on to be the champions. So my question here is, if one of our remaining 12 drivers go to victory lane here today, are we looking at our Season 7 Hersheys Cup Series champion? We're going to have to wait and see. It's going to be really interesting. A lot of playoff contenders starting up near the front of the field here. Gardner on the pole. You've got in row 2 there, Joseph Srigley and K Shearer. Anthony McCrury not too far back there in 9th. So we'll see if good starting track position is going to help them out. Like I said, only driver comes into this race knowing that he will make it into the next round of the playoffs is K Batson after his second career win, taking the checker flag last week at Auto Club. 29 laps of racing here today. Let's see what's going to happen as last year's winner starts from the front row. J Gardner ready to get chase race number 5 underway. Green flags out. Let's roll at Talladega. Drivers already fanning out 2 wide, a little bit of 3 wide back there outside the top 10. As Gardner with former teammate Shane Lake right behind him. R Reynolds slots to 3rd. Kyle Keith, who was on the outside line, slots into the 4th position, finally getting down to the bottom of the racetrack. Kyle Keith's last career win was in the Pizza Hut X Series. I think that was back in Season 2, might have been Season 3, when he won at Daytona. So his last career win in the NNSCRA was at a super speedway. Top 7, maybe 8 now single file as they kind of split into two-car tandems. Gardner, Lake, Reynolds, Keith, and then Gonzales, Watson. Brandon Gonzales, who won a couple of weeks ago at Indianapolis. Benny Watson, 4-time winner last season, still looking for his first win this year as both of his Flying Aces Racing teammates have gone to victory lane this season. Dallas McIntosh, former winner from this year, but was outside the top 30 in the points, so his win didn't count towards a playoff spot. Now going to move by Joseph Srigley. That was for the 7th position. Srigley back to 8th. McCrury right behind him in 9th. Right now we have a total of 3 playoff contenders up inside of the top 10. We did have 4, but K Shearer is now fallen back. Now in the 12th position. Dylan Young right there as well in the 2. He got kicked up to the high side. And there's K Mathews in the 09, former champion. You look over on that right side at the playoff grid, and you can see the gap from 8th place Jessica Shelton back to Cole Baker in 9th, 15 points. Easily made up at a super speedway, no doubt about that, but certainly a much bigger deficit heading into the second race of this round of the playoffs than we kind of expected. Move back up towards the front as Benny Watson continues to try and fight his way to the front. Just got by Brandon Gonzales, now trying to take the 4th position from R.J. Reynolds. Benny Watson, remember back in, I think it was Season 3, I believe it was, of the Pizza Hut X Series. The former Pizza Hut X Series champion finished 2nd place here at Talladega, pushing then teammate Jay Jefferson to the victory. Back at that time, Jefferson was in the 05. Watson, I believe, was in the 24 in Pizza Hut X Series competition. Shane Lake seems pretty committed right now to push the number 7 out in front. This is important for Johnny Gardner in the terms as well that he right now is the only playoff contender to have a bonus point for leading a lap. And if he can get himself at least to the completion of somewhere around lap 15, he would have led the most laps and get yet another extra bonus point. Gardner 3rd in the point standings out of the remaining 12 and 21 points ahead of 8th in the standings cut lines. As a matter of fact, let's go back and see where those 8 drivers behind that cut line currently are running. We know that Srigley is up here towards the front. Last time by, the 21 was scored in the 9th position, and right now he is 12th of the 12 playoff drivers still remaining. We're looking for Baker, Smart, and Roush. Where are they at? There's Cody Smart. Last time by, scored in the 23rd position. There's 3-time winner Charles Sandfer, 3-time Talladega winner. There's Baker. Baker right now scored 35th, and the driver he's trying to run down, Jessica Shelton's just ahead of him. And Scott Roush in the 60. Where in the world is he? There he is. He was last time by, scored in 40th. And that's where he still is. Dougie Shears has lost the draft. He's back in 41st. And James McLeod, this is the 2nd straight week. I know I've got the ratings set exactly the same for everybody, but this is the 2nd straight week that James McLeod has been way back behind everybody in the pack. I'm going to have to look and see what's going on there because that doesn't seem right. Unless he's just qualifying poorly and is losing the draft, but last week at Auto Club, that 51 appeared to be off the pace, so I don't know. So I might have made a mistake there or something. I don't know. I'm going to have to look back. I'm almost certain that I've got all the settings the same, though. And I didn't add the 51 in later after setting all the things up, so I don't know what's going on with that. I'm going to have to look into that. While up front, a lot of jostling inside the top 5. Chris Dodd, his final season in the Hersheys Cup Series, the Season 2 champion. Now up to 4th place. He worked his way around Brandon Gonzales, and he wants more. He's now going to go for 3rd on Kyle Keith. He's going to have some help. Dallas McIntosh, a couple of former Daytona 500 winners working together there. Dodd won the Daytona 500 back in Season 5. McIntosh won the 500 in Season 6. And Chris Dodd, I don't know if he got really any help from Dallas McIntosh. He might have made that pass on Kyle Keith all by himself. Manuel Hartnett there in the 20. Nice to see him having a good run. Currently up in the, I think now 6th position as he just made his way by Brandon Gonzales. Hartnett 37th in the points. And remember, we ended up having a winner in the Pizza Deck Series race here yesterday in Matt McIntyre, who was 40th in the points coming into that race. Well, there's some drivers up here towards the front of the field that could fit into that category. Dallas McIntosh, he's 41st in points. Manuel Hartnett is 37th in the standings. Shane Lake, 34th. Benny Watson, 32nd. So Talladega could cater to the underdog. And boy, that 8 car is flying. He moves Shane Lake out of the way for second. He's going to get the race lead away from Johnny Gardner. That might be the fastest car on the racetrack right now, or definitely the one that's doing the best in terms of the draft. Shane Lake going to move into second, and now Johnny Gardner finds himself in unfamiliar territory on the outside line going backwards. Manuel Hartnett gets kicked up to that outside groove as well. Now Gardner's the only playoff contender up in this lead pack, but you've also got Anthony McCrury back here leading this second group that's trying to catch up, so he might have something to say about whoever's going to be the top running playoff contender in just a moment. K Shearer right there as well. Kyle Mathews, J Srigley all catching up. And there's another driver that would fit the criteria of a struggling driver this year, Sean Gallighan. Gallighan, who's been in this series since the start, 42nd in the points, dead last coming into this race. He's up to the 15th position right now. Chris Dodd about to come and complete lap 9. We're on to lap 10, so it's time to start thinking about fuel strategy. In the Last of Us Light Series race, they were able to make it somewhere between 15 to 18 laps on fuel. We never really got a clear idea of what the fuel window was for the Pizza Deck Series drivers because we ended up having a caution back on the beginning at lap 1, and then we had a caution when we were nearing green flag pit stop. So we don't really know just how far they were able to go, and thus we don't really know how far these drivers are able to go. My assumption is they're probably going to have to pit somewhere between laps 18 to 22 depending on how much fuel they save, but I'm almost 100% certain they cannot make it the full schedule 29 laps without at least making one trip to pit road. The field already is kind of spread out. You got a big pack up here, and then you've got Chris Dollerton and Benjamin Miles leading that second group back there. They're trying to catch up. And when we get to the green flag pit stops, there's no doubt in my mind the field's going to get very split up as well. And we saw in the Last of Us Light Series race that if you come to pit road, you're going to want to have a lot of friends coming with you, so you leave with a pack. Griffin Lynn stretched it a couple extra laps, came to pit road with Paul Jackson. Those were the only two that ended up pitting, and as a result, he didn't get a very good exit off pit road, got easily freight trained. And are we having pit stops already? Yes we are. Shane Lake's on pit road with Brandon Gonzales and R Reynolds. Now, here's a big question. Is this going to be short pitting so they can make it the rest of the way, or is this actually how far they can make it on fuel? Something tells me this is the pit stop they're making now to make it to the rest of the way, because they're pitting with about 19 laps to go. That would fit right within the fuel window. So I think we got some drivers short pitting and some drivers going to try and stretch it as far as they can. So Shane Lake gave up the second position to hit pit road. Let's see who else was on pit lane. McLeod and Shears are on. Scott Roush, playoff contender. There's Keith Batson rolling the dice. A couple of drivers there. J Cittadino, J Arndt, Levi McIntyre, drivers that got eliminated from the playoffs after round 1. Jessica Shelton, playoff contender on pit road. J Bryant, Zachary Fitzwater, Tim Walsh, R Reynolds, Dollerton, Miles, Gallighan, as well as Watson, Mathews, Gonzales, and Lake. And here comes some more. Chris Dodd, the race leader, is in, along with McIntosh, Keith, Hartnett, Gardner, and others. Staying out, the 80 of K Shearer. Dylan Young also stayed out, as did Dylan Poteet. So two of our playoff contenders, Shearer and Young, staying out. Dylan Young comes into this race 24 points ahead of the cut line. K Shearer, 16 points ahead of the cut line. Both risking it here. I think Kev wanted to get that extra lap-led bonus point, which he succeeded in doing. We'll have to see where Kev and Dylan after this find themselves, as Shearer will hit the pit lane this time. I'm sure Dylan Young will be doing the same. And Dylan Poteet also there in the 31, still looking for his first win of the season. So where would we cycle around to the battle for the race lead? Well, there's the guy that was the leader when the pit stops began. Looks like he very easily may be the race leader when the pit stops complete. Chris Dodd going to get out ahead here. There's Emmanuel Hartnett right behind him. Brandon Gonzales, Shane Lake would be third, fourth, and then fifth, Kyle Mathews. They're going to work their way around Hartnett. So that'll move them to second, third, and fourth, as now they'll try and run down Chris Dodd. Dodd with a huge lead right now, which is not exactly what you want here at a super speedway, especially with the fact that 23 and the 55 have a lot of momentum right now. Since they have already gotten up to speed, Chris Dodd's still trying to. There you see Dylan Poteet's going to get past. Dylan Young's going to get past. And there's K Shearer. His teammate's going to go around him, so the lead will cycle back to the driver of the number 8 Lays Chevrolet, I do believe. Yep, he's going to get around K Shearer here, and Brandon Gonzales is going to try and take the race lead. He's going to get some help. Shane Lake going to offer the drafting help. Kyle Mathews right there as well. Benny Watson and Emmanuel Hartnett. Shearer trying to merge with this group, but I don't know if he's fast enough to catch on to their draft. Maybe if Kyle Keith gets to him, those two can work together and try and catch up in the top 6. Brandon Gonzales, to my knowledge, has never had a multi-win season in the Hersheys Cup Series. He had a win last year at Eldora. And before that, he had a win at Texas, but I don't think he's ever had 2 wins in the same season. As it's a 6-car breakaway right now, single file at the front of the field. Gonzales, Lake, Kyle Mathews up there now in third, highest running playoff driver. Benny Watson there in fourth, Chris Dodd in fifth, Emmanuel Hartnett in sixth. Boy, there's a lot of drivers right here I can see that really are hungry for their first win of the season. Lake, of course, his best finish last year as a rookie, second to Benny Watson at Dover. Watson, a 4-time winner last year, winless so far this season. Chris Dodd in his final year, his retirement year, would love to get a victory. And also Emmanuel Hartnett's been a long winless streak for the driver of the 20. We are just past the halfway point in this race, and I believe that was the stop those drivers needed to make to go the rest of the distance. If it wasn't, if they honestly could only make it 11 to 13 laps, they will be on pit road again. Benny Watson to the inside of Brandon Gonzales, so the Napa Chevrolet will now go to the race lead. Kyle Mathews there in that 09. You know what he's thinking? He's thinking, how about I win this race and get an automatic ticket into the Elite 8? Remember, next week, the race we're going to is Boston Speedway. It's a track that's debuting on the schedule. Nobody really has an idea of what to expect. Keith Batson's going to be able to sit back and relax and try and learn the track, knowing he's moving on to the next round. Mathews would love to do the same. Find out where our 12 playoff contenders are currently running as we take you through the field to find them. Kyle Mathews scored right now in the unofficially 5th position. K Shearer is currently in 7th. Cody Smart did a good job picking up some spots here under that pit stop. He's now up to the 13th position. Last time by now scored 11th. Dylan Young currently in 18th after rolling the dice, staying out an extra lap. Joseph Srigley, he's in 23rd. Anthony McCrury in 25th. Johnny Gardner, well, he lost some spots there. He's back now in 24th, but I think now he's 26th. Cole Baker, former winner at Talladega, back in 31st place. J Baskinger back in 33rd. Shelton in 34th. I think those two really hoping for a caution. Got a lot of stragglers back here, including Keith Batson, so for him to have a bad race, at least it's taking place here 1 week after he's already locked himself into the Elite 8. Scott Roush, boy, this car could be in really big trouble. He just barely made his way into the round of 12 after the race at Indianapolis. He's 39th here, and he had a poor performance last week at Auto Club. Came in 11th of the 12 playoff drivers in this race. He could be in big trouble. His teammate Jordan Lopez back here without any front end. Not sure what that's all about. And there's Dougie Shears back in 41st. James McLeod back in 42nd. So right now it looks like the only two drivers that came into this race in the elimination spots that are really doing anything to try and counter that are Joseph Srigley and Cody Smart. Smart almost up into the top 10. K Shearer caught this lead group along with Kyle Keith. Kyle Keith, though, faded back. Shearer kept his foot in it and caught this group. He's now up to second place, so Shearer trying to race his way into the round of 8. Gonna have to get by Benny Watson here, though. Brandon Gonzales right behind him. Now, like I said, if these drivers can only make it as far as they did when they came to pit road, then they're going to be back on the pit lane somewhere within the next 3 to 6 laps. I would be really surprised if the Last of Us Light Series drivers, with the fuel window they had and CTS physics, could make it 4 laps further than drivers with Cup physics. So I'm almost 100% certain, since they were within their fuel window, they all came to pit road when they did. I think we're racing to the checkers. I don't think there's going to be another pit stop. And if that's the case, then we've only got about 7 cars right here in this pack to have a chance for this win. Watson, Gonzales, Shearer, Lake, Dodd, Mathews, and Hartnett. That second group is trying to catch up. They're making a little bit of headway, but not much. We got a former Talladega winner in Benjamin Miles leading this group. Seth Cole, Cody Smart, Tim Walsh, 3-time Talladega winner Charles Sandfer, as well as J Arndt and Kyle Keith, who just got reeled in by this group. He's now dropped back to the tail end of them. And you got another group that's trying to reel them in. J Bryant, Daniel Voyles, Trent Dunham, Dylan Young, and Dallas McIntosh, along with Cody Llamas and Chris Dollerton. Then teammates Sean Gallighan and Anthony McCrury, they're about to get reeled in by a 4th pack. J Gardner, who started on the pole, he's losing touch with these groups. Daniel Guilbert right in front of him, those two in 31st and 32nd. And it looks like they're losing touch with the lead pack. You see Baskinger and Shelton back here as well. Both had solid outings at Auto Club last week. Not the runs they were looking for here at Talladega. So, you know, the point standings with some of these drivers that ran well at Auto Club struggling here at Dega, the point standings could very easily close back up, at least close to that battle for the spot inside the Elite 8 from like 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, heading into Boston next week. Looking at the 25 of Miles, this group I think is making up a little bit of ground, because that front group has really dissipated just a little bit. Let's see what the interval is at the line. Last time was 4.5, this time 4.3. They gained only a 10th. I mean, look how spread out they are. Hartnett, long gap up to Chris Dodd. Mathews, a long gap, then a long gap to Shane Lake. Right now, the only cars really lined up at the moment are Benny Watson, K Shearer, and Brandon Gonzales. And so if these drivers continue to run as far away from each other as they are, they're not going to produce a lot of speed. And that's going to allow them to probably get picked off one by one. If these drivers here, like Chris Dodd, Mathews, Hartnett, start losing the draft, these guys are going to catch them really quick and bypass them. This here, I think, is the strong 5. Miles, Cole, Smart, Walsh, and Sandfer. I think they're going to pick off these guys one by one. Question is, how quickly can they pass them, though? If they get held up and they lose some momentum, they could be in trouble. That time by, let's see at the line, do they gain? Gain 3/10. Hartnett's going to go down in front of him, though. Benjamin Miles forced to go up topside, and that's going to break up this group. So Hartnett just killed their momentum. Now they got to get themselves back together again, and that's going to take them some time to form back up. They've got about, what, 5.5 laps to do it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Kev moved up. I think the 24 just indicated he's coming to pit road. So they couldn't make it. They're going to have to make another pit stop. Oh, boy. K Shearer stays out. Chris Dodd stays out. A couple of teammates, as Watson gives up the lead to hit pit road. So it is going to come down to 2 green flag pit stops. I'm absolutely shocked. 11 to 13 laps is the fuel window for Cup Physics. It's set to 2x for Pete's sakes. And the Last of Us Light Series drivers, they were able to make it 13 to 15 laps on a tank of fuel, and they were CTS physics. I don't understand this at all. It doesn't make any sense. But K Shearer with his teammate Chris Dodd, and I mean the field was spread out enough as it was. Now it's really going to be spread up. A lot of cars came down pit road that last time, and so they'll all be leaving as a group. K Shearer and Chris Dodd might find themselves sitting ducks if they don't have a really good pit stop here. Shearer in, Chris Dodd in, Cody Smart, Charles Sandfer stayed out as well. Cody Llamas in the 48. He's going to stay out and lead a lap. Llamas, who finished runner-up at Indianapolis to Brandon Gonzales, finished runner-up the week later at Auto Club. Or did he finish runner-up at Auto Club? Oh no, he finished runner-up at Bristol, and then he finished runner-up at Indianapolis. Auto Club, he finished that race in the 14th position. And Trent Dunham right behind him, a former Talladega winner back from season 5. Dylan Poteet we saw stay out an extra lap on the last round of pit stops. He stayed out an extra lap here again. And they're going to come to pit road here. Looks like, was that the 83 of Chris Dollerton? Oh, I thought he stayed out. Nope, he had already been to pit road. So now as these drivers hit pit lane, where does the race lead cycle around to? There's Kev. Kev's going to come out in front of the 24, who now has the lap machine of James McLeod, and behind him, drafting him. They got the 79 of Jordan Lopez just ahead they got to get around. And it looks like K Shearer is going to have position, at least for the moment, on Benny Watson. And Kyle Mathews would be third. His teammate Sandfer now up to fourth. Look out, here comes a guy who's got 3 career wins at Talladega. Chris Dodd would be 5th, Voyles would be 6th, 7th Lake, 8th Walsh, 9th Gonzales, and Holly Davis now up in the top 10. Making their way around the lap machine of Jordan Lopez. Mathews succeeds in doing so. Now Sandfer's kind of held back. K Shearer trying to hold on to the race lead, but Benny Watson's got a drafting partner. Last time by, K Shearer had about 4.3 seconds back to the 24. Let's see if that gap gets closed up. I think Watson's going to need a little bit more help. Kyle Mathews might be able to catch up here, and maybe the 24, 51, and 09 can do something. We're going to have to look at the lap time, see just how much Benny Watson's able to gain on K Shearer. So 4.2 seconds last time. This time between the 80 and the 24 with 3 laps to go, it is 4.08. Shearer ran a 51.5. Watson ran a 51.3. So Watson's got to gain more than a second a lap. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. He's got McLeod behind him as a wingman. Might have a battle for third place brewing here as Sandfer and Chris Dodd working together to try and reel in Kyle Mathews. And then you got a group behind them as well with Lake, Voyles, Gonzales, Walsh, Dunham, a lot of others. So there's going to be some spots in the top 5 probably cycling around. K Shearer going to come around and he'll see 2 laps to go. But does he have enough time to hold off Benny Watson? Hits the line. Doesn't look like the gap really visibly closed up enough for Watson to really get up there and challenge for the race lead. That time by, he only gained a 10th, a 51.323 for Shearer, 51.149 for Benny Watson. I don't think he's reeling him in quickly enough, but K Shearer is closing in on traffic. Dougie Shears, Keith Batson, Scott Roush ahead. Will they play a factor here on this final lap? You see, it's a big gap back there. Watson needed a lot more drivers with him to be able to catch up. Here's the battle for third. Charles Sandfer to the inside of his teammate Kyle Mathews. Mathews with every point mattering, trying to hold on. Chris Dodd in this group, and then here comes the big pack with Walsh, Lake, Poteet, Dunham, and a host of others. Watson trying everything he can to get up there to K Shearer, but I think it's going to be too little too late. White flag displayed for the 80 of K Shearer, trying to race his way into the round of 8. K Shearer, much like Keith Batson this season, made it into the playoffs via his consistency in points. Has not had a win yet this year. Last week, Keith Batson had the same situation. He went to victory lane. Looks like 1 week later, we're going to have the same song, second verse. over 3.5 seconds. Benny Watson still has to make up, and he's only got 2 corners to try and reel him in. There's not going to be enough time. K Shearer is going to get his first win of the season, a big one, as he will be in the Elite 8 to battle for the championship in the 3rd round of the playoffs. He'll take his first win of the season here at the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway. Now look at this battle back here for 3rd. Mathews going to keep it. 3 wide, 2 rows deep coming to the line there. Watson, his best finish of the season in 2nd, so close to his first win of the year. But K Shearer gets win number 1 in Season 7, and he will join Keith Batson as a representative in this season's Elite 8 in Round 3 of the chase for the championship. Kyle Mathews, who came into this race 19 points ahead of the cut line. Anthony McCrury, 20 points ahead of the cut line, finishing both in the top 10. They're going to make very good cases for themselves to probably race their way into the Elite 8 if they have a decent running next week at Boston. As let's take a look at the full finisher results from this race. So Shearer with the win. It is the 2nd win, I believe, of the season for CJ Racing as a team. Benny Watson there in 2nd place, so close to completing the sweep this year for the Flying Aces Racing drivers. Kyle Mathews will end up in 3rd place, highest finishing playoff driver behind Shearer. Walsh will finish in 4th. Sandfer, so good at Talladega. Boy, what if he had had a chance with a couple of laps for that group to catch up to Watson and Shearer? He might have been in the hunt for his 4th Talladega win. McCrury brings it home with a solid outing of 6th. John Arndt, Dylan Poteet, Trent Dunham, and Chris Dodd. That's going to complete your top 10. But where's the rest of our playoff contenders? Cole Baker, who came in 9th in the playoff standings, finishes 18th. Don't know how close that's going to get him to maybe be able to race his way into the Elite 8 next week at Boston, but we'll have to wait and see. Cody Smart, he looked like he had a shot at getting up in the top 10, but I guess they had a slow stop or something on that 2nd round of pit stops. He finishes 25th. Srigley down in 26th. Baskinger down in 28th. We only had really 3 playoff contenders that had a good run here today. Well, maybe 4. Shearer, Mathews, McCrury, and possibly Baker. Dylan Young down in 29th. Not the run he was looking for. Gardner, the defending winner here, down in 33rd. Shelton, who came in the critical 8th position in points, 34th for her. Scott Roush, this might be the end of his chances. He probably is going to head into Boston in a must-win situation as he finished 38th. And Keith Batson finished 39th, but the good news for him, he's already locked into the Elite 8, so he could afford a poor performance here today. We had 42 cars all finish the race, 40 of them on the lead lap. McLeod and Lopez finishing off the lead lap in 41st and 42nd. So, 8 slots in round 3 for the Elite 8. 2 slots already filled. Keith Batson winning at Auto Club, K Shearer here at Talladega. 5 of our races have been won by 4 playoff drivers. The only non-playoff driver to win, Brandon Gonzales at our elimination race in Indianapolis. So, boy, these playoff contenders, they know that a win-and-you're-in situation is so important. So, who will join Keith Batson and K Shearer in those final 6 spots in the Elite 8? We'll find out next week at Boston. Hope you guys enjoyed today's race. If you did, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and become part of the crew today. We have shown you full feature results, your rookie points, your overall points, your updated playoff points. Boy, I'm going to be interested to see just exactly what kind of a battle we're going to have for spots maybe 6, 7, 8 in the playoffs heading into Boston. A track that we know nothing about. It's making its debut on the schedule. We're going to have to see what kind of a factor it plays. Next week, we've got the Last of Us Late Series. They're going to be having their 9th race of the season, setting up for their championship race at Kansas in a few weeks. They'll be at Gateway, and we have only Hersheys Cup Series action next week at that debuting track of Boston. Then the next week, it's only Trucks and Hersheys Cup. They're going road course racing. Trucks at their endurance race of Le Mans, and then then it will be our first race of the 3rd round of our Elite 8 at the road course of Lime Rock for the Hersheys Cup Series. Then after that, we head to Kansas for the championship round for the Last of Us Light Series. Texas on tap for Pizza Hut X Series and Hersheys Cup Series action before our 3 main series will finish off the season with back-to-back weekends at Rockingham. That's our elimination race to determine our Final 4. Those Final 4 of each series will race the season finale of Homestead Miami Speedway. We're getting close to the end of the year, getting close to determining champions. Hope you guys enjoyed this race. We'll see you guys next time as you've been watching production NNSCRA Offline Racing at its best.